As dancers, we pass a great amount of our time observing ourselves and the world in relation to the expression of movement. Generally, we pay more attention to movement than people who use movement in functional or mechanical ways, mostly non-consciously. As movement artists and researchers, we always hope to know more about the nature of this moving force. For the dancer who lives submerged in his/her investigative and practical dance laboratory, perception and the poetic language of movement is kinesthetic, sensorial, somathetic a priori. Our research object is directly connected to sensory-motor perception. From the aesthetic perspective, creativity and perception are intrinsically related to the sensory-motor system. This creative characteristic of the nature of movement offers us the possibility to unfold patterns or moving principles, as well as to experience and establish new patterns of perception. David Bohm understands this phenomenon in an inspiring way. According to him, we can say that in an act of creative perception, the individual becomes first conscious, normally in a non-verbal form, of a new series of irrelevant differences and starts to examine or observe a new series of similarities which don't simply come from previous knowledge of the field or of new fields. This brings a new order that favors the appearance of a new hierarchy of orders that constitute a series of new types of structure. The process tends to form harmonious and unified totalities, with a sensation of beauty and capable of moving those who understand them in profoundly inspiring forms. In many ancient cultures, the arrival of a new perceptive field about reality always was honored as a manifestation of the divine. In the northeast of Brazil, the Toré and the Jurema are the two main icons of northeastern Indian identity. The Toré is a ritualistic dance practiced by the Indians which has a principal motivation, the consecration of diverse ethnic groups. The Toré gained visibility from a social process that began in the first half of the 20th century. Today, the Toré is totally incorporated in the indigenous movement of the Northeast as a form of political expression. The jurema is a plant considered by indigenous people as an entity of the forest. Baptized as mimosa, it contains a high concentration of DMT, a substance capable of promoting intense states of expanded consciousness and perception. Perceiving levels of reality and evoking through rituals the experiences lived is a form to relate inventive perception to creative memory, well developed by people of diverse cultural traditions. This differentiation between perception and evocation is very suggestive. It allows us a comprehension of the nature of perception, which etymologically has its origins in the Latin per, through, and capere, obtain, take, collect. This formed the verb percipere, with the sense of perceive or learn through the senses. In this way, perception is a mode of cognition that has as its premise the apprehension of knowledge through the senses. In the sense of touch. This process of perception involves operationally all other senses, and furthermore involves an intrinsic relation between perception and the collecting of information or memory. Considering the historical perspective of dance, it's easy to see how ephemeral its trajectory can be. The idea of ordered steps in Brazilian traditional dances might have been a mode of preserving the aesthetic corporal experience of the ritual, where knowledge and modes of perceiving life of people could be passed on from generation to generation. This could be seen as the legacy of traditional dances performed by ancestors of varied ethnic and cultural origins. Due to this procedure, we nowadays can experience in our contemporary bodies dances and movement principles created and practiced in former times. Bodily written as movement sequence and steps, these configurations were carried on by societies generation after generation. Usually, they retain their founding principles, motion drives, aesthetic features, and cultural functions, following values of the society in which they are practiced. Implicit in these expressions is a form of body cognition expressive of the community's ways of perceiving, thinking, and living in the world. Aesthetic matrices. Perception in this cognitive perspective is directly connected to our motor system, to our senses, and to our memory. All life is movement, and all movement is a sensory perceptive action, even when unconscious. According Bohm, nature is a creative process in which not only new structures emerge, but also new structural orders. And it is in this double sense that life projects itself in its evolutionary processes. From micro to macro, life invents and reinvents itself. It's necessary to move, to see, to touch, and to feel every single moment of life, so that the creative perception might become a conscious proprioceptive act, loaded with motion drive, inspiration, and attention enough to prolong itself in time and space. This state of inventiveness and commotion makes us co-creators of life. While facing a creative endeavor, such state promotes consciousness and memory in real time. The word evoke comes from the Latin evocare, to call, to convoke a meeting, from ex, out, plus vocare, call. In this sense, the action of evoking is also related to remembering, to remember something that is in the past, and to relive it, individually and collectively. For this reason, rites are often collective expressions of shared intentions and evokings. In this aspect, memory does not only have the function of registering the experience, but also has the capacity to reconnect us to the lived experience through process of representation and recognition. For Antonio Damasio, Feeling is an important agent of cognitive processes because with its help we can map information. According to Damasio, maps are also constructed when we evoke objects as memory data inside the brain. Maps, just like dance steps, are intertwined with the dynamics of information exchange with the environment. In such a context, creativity is life's instrument to renew information and to assure its successive transmission throughout times. To invent could be seen as a conscious perceptive experience with sufficient vital force to be registered in our present memory with or without the potentiality to evoke renewal, reconfiguration, and recognition. In other words, we are capable of not only reproducing old patterns, but also of inventively participating in the present moment in light of new perception and possibly new structures. We need to pay attention and allow ourselves to be touched by incoming sensations and feelings. This inventive haptic body makes the motor experience as a complex tactile experience, involving not only the sense of touch, but also a capacity to touch and to be touched by everything that is involved in the person's perceptual field. The haptic system is related to the perception of texture, movement, and forces. For example, inertial, gravitational, and acceleration through management of efforts by the receptors of touch, vision, hearing, and proprioception. The haptic function is dependent upon the active exploration of the environment, either stable or in motion. The kinesthetic system and the skin system are haptic subsystems. The former offers the observer awareness of the body's static and dynamic posture through input from the receptors of muscles, skin, and joints. The latter promotes notions of change and input outside the body, captured in the skin surface. The movement steps can evoke memories, values, and meanings. In the rhythm made by the feet on the ground, time can be touched. Earth vibrations and chants evoke intentions that can bring to the rite of here and now the wisdom and knowledge of our ancestors. The plant transformed into sacred drinks represents the force and the beauty of the Indian world. This repertoire of steps and chants presenting Torah's rites, when performed in a traditional way with the use of jurema, causes a transposition of daily perception towards an extraordinary experience. Thus, this ritualistic dance can be considered at the cognitive level a kind of multisensorial experience that catalyzes haptic inventive body states. In other words, these rituals offer the possibility of inventive immanence and haptic proprioceptive intelligence, having movement steps as tactile practices. In such a proprioceptive and sensorial dance, the creative ignition force carries potential energy that is capable of lighting us beyond mechanisms process of embodied recognition through the steps, making us redimension ourselves in the here and now, in a direct and immanent relation to forces a priori represented in each step. That is, the steps in an expanded state of consciousness are like codes carrying us from the immanent perception state to a timeless inventive experience. This can be seen as a main legacy of popular traditional dances as left by our ancestors.